Did you know one of the most mysterious ancient sites in all of Egypt is not open to the public? I'm going to try and give you a little rundown about what the Assyrian is, what we know so far, because it's a real head scratcher. Nobody knows who built it, when, or why. Like, what actually is it? So, let's get into it. Way down the bottom of the River Nile, there is a place called Abydos in Egypt, which is one of the most ancient places in Egypt. We can find 1st and 2nd dynasty graves there. So people were here literally 5,000 plus years ago, maybe even more, and it's just a super old place. Right. In Abydos, there is a temple called the Temple of Osiris, or Seti I temple complex, which actually isn't that old. The temple there is dated to around the Middle Kingdom. We know who built it, we know why, no mystery there. What is mysterious though is that around the back, below the ground level of the Temple of Osiris, we find a thing called the Osirian, meters below the ground level of the surface of the temple above. Are you with me? This is looking down from ground level. This is how deep into the ground the Osirian goes. There is a mysterious temple complex deep into the earth. And don't let the photo before confuse you about how big this site is. It is huge. We are talking huge megalithic pillars built deep into the earth. Each of these are cut from one block of granite, and they are estimated to be weighed around 70 tons each. And originally there was pillars, and as you can see the blocks on the top, they would have gone over to create like a roof. This is just the top of what would be a 5-story complex going into the ground. Just for size reference, this is me. I'm nearly 6 foot tall in these platforms. Look how tiny I look next to these huge, massive granite pillars. Also note that there is not a scratch of decoration in the entire complex. It is all minimal, it is all megalithic. It kind of doesn't look Egyptian. You know what I mean? Now, it's not just the impressive stonework that makes the Assyrian incredibly interesting. Notice the nubs above here, but it's the water. So around the central island of the temple complex is water. There's a moat. And guess how deep this moat is? Guess how deep? If you fell into that, guess how deep that went down? 15 meters. This goes down. They did seismic scans of the area and found that it goes down at least 15 meters. Not only that, the central island is hollow. So that shows that it could maybe have chambers. Can't say for certain because no one's been inside because it's full of water. But what's going on here? Here's a diagram to show what I mean. I was that little person standing up there next to the huge megalithic pillars. I was standing on top of a huge 15-meter granite island, potentially with a chamber inside. There is 15-meter pure drop of moat, and then the side walls is 15 meters of walls going right into the ground, equivalent to a 5-story building. Now, this is where it starts to get really insane. The scientists were like, well, where does it stop? Where's the foundation that the building complex was built on? Turns out doesn't have one. It is literally plugged in and resting on 900 meters of water-impregnated sand. And so before you get to anything remotely solid, it's 900 meters. Now, we only rediscovered the Osirian in the late 1800s, and they only started to really try and excavate it around the 1920s. And one of the first things they tried to do was get rid of the water so they could see how deep it went and check it all out. Only they couldn't, because the water in the Osirian is completely unpumpable. They have been trying to pump out the water since the 1920s, and even with modern equipment that could pump out like 500 gallons a minute, they cannot get the water out of this site. It just keeps refilling because it is sitting on 900 meters of water impregnated sand, which is coming up from a natural aquifer, not the Nile. So when they tested the water in the Osirian, they found out that it categorically is not coming from the River Nile or any other local canal or river. It is a very specific type of aquifer water on this site, which is probably why the ancient people knew this for a reason. They built this whole complex for a reason, because of the water. But if you cannot pump the water out, it brings into question, how the hell did they build the temple? Please, if anyone has a good theory about this, because it keeps me up at night. But literally, you can't use any of the modern methods of sandbagging or pumping out the water because you cannot redirect the aquifer. It keeps just refilling up. So how did they get to build the wall 15 meters down and the chamber and line up the precision? Like, how did they do it? But also, why? What is this whole site for? Is it, does the water do magic? Well, I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but one of the dudes who has been excavating and researching this site like since the 80s, he decided once they tested the water and found out that it was not Nile water, it wasn't wastewater, it wasn't coming from anywhere else but deep within the earth, and it was safe to drink. Bit dirty, but safe to drink. So he decided he was going to do his own experiment for his own entertainment, and he was going to drink as much of the Assyrian water as he possibly could. And he said he drank gallons of the stuff. Obviously, he filtered it first, but anyway. And again, this guy is a legit scientist, and he claims openly on his YouTube channel that after he drank gallons and gallons of this water, he didn't notice anything, apart from when he went to have his eyes retested for his driving license, because he's always worn glasses and always had bad eyesight. He now has 20/20 vision, and he can't say it's because of the water, but he can't think of anything else that changed leading up to the change in his eyesight. Does the Assyrian water have healing properties or some sort of something? We don't know. Now, whether or not the Assyrian water fixes your eyesight is yet to be investigated properly. But one thing that was with quantifiable data is the thermodynamic properties of the Assyrian water. It is being heated by a source that they cannot find. They're not sure why. It is also displaying some really weird results. They did multiple tests, repeated tests, and they found that the water appears to not stick to the rules of the laws of thermodynamics. For example, heat cannot pass through a cold body and like retain its heat, yet the Assyrian water was able to do this when flowed through various apparatus. So there is a huge question mark in working out why it is appearing to betray the laws of thermodynamics. I'm going to have to make a part 2 on this site because there is so much more to why this site is bizarre and the big question of could it be ridiculously old. So I'm going to do a part 2.